Welcome to Universal Man. My name is Mark Weppett. I'm here to help you unleash your apex potential. And today I'm back with another coaching call. And this time we're taking a Vanguard member and helping him figure out how to make a business out of his passion. This is something that I think many people are interested in doing. In particular, if you are someone who's trying to engage in a more creative sort of passion, something like art or a skill, and you're trying to figure out, okay, I got this thing I'm good at and what I want to do, but I need to figure out how to make some money with it. Well, that's one of the things we really cover here today. So if you're in that kind of boat, well, then I think you might really get a lot out of this conversation. Hope you enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back. We've got another Universal Man coaching call here, and today we are joined with Vanguard member Pearson. Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, pumped to have you here. So you're mentioning there's a number of different things that you're potentially interested in getting help with, but, you know, like the way I like to start things off with kind of everyone who works with me is like, say this session went phenomenally well. What would be the outcome that you would be getting from it?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't expect to have a burning bush realization or anything, but I would think it would be awesome to come away with some maybe some new mindsets and applicable strategies that I can use going forward and implement them immediately, as soon as this call is over, so I can move forward with confidence in my business and also in my creative life.
Okay. So a lot of this is focused around your business then. That sounds like, I remember we talked previously a little bit, and it seemed like that's where a lot of your effort is going. So tell me a little bit about that. What's going on with your business?
Sure. So I offer two main services as of now. One is piano and music instruction, and that could range anything from jazz piano to composition, songwriting lessons to music theory, and I'm pretty confident in that because I've been a piano player since I was 8. I'm 30 now, and I've played professionally more or less since I was 11 years old. And I've had a number of students throughout my 20s. So I'm fairly confident in that area, but there are still some issues there that I'd like to address. And then the other service that I offer, I'd say I'm a little bit less confident about just because I've been doing it for less amount of time, is coaching, more holistic life coaching and what I call artist development. And I'm actually more passionate about this type of service because I feel like it really gets to the root of a lot of why adults don't get to their instrument in the first place, or why a lot of adults say, I want to reunite with a passion, and they don't do it. Right. Life gets in the way. You know, you hear that a lot. Life just got in the way. Or you hear adults say, I put my passion on hold.
Right.
I believe that that's because of a lot of interrelated issues that can be addressed with more holistic coaching. And that's why I'm much more passionate about that. Because first of all, I mean, the main reason, I suppose, is because I've had similar issues, and holistic coaching has worked and is working for me on a much deeper level than just learning musical techniques or concepts.
Okay.
Not to say that that's not important, but
okay. So you've got kind of like a combo package where you can teach someone how to play an instrument, and then you can teach them and help them, coach them around getting them to actually sit down and play it, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that, and I do have one client where that package, where we're doing that package now. We're half the call is like more holistic coaching, and the other half is piano lesson.
Okay.
And it's working very well.
Cool. So what's the challenge that you're running into setting up this business?
Okay. Well, there's a number of challenges. I'd say to start, I have one client in the coaching realm.
Right.
And I'd like to see if I could get one more client, that would be scaling, right? Because then I'd be doubling my business. But I don't know. I've had issues kind of getting mileage with my visibility, and I've also had issues, I'm going to be honest, with my communication. I feel like my communication could use some work, and I think that this kind of goes back to the whole self-confidence thing. Being more self-confident and having confidence that what I'm saying is getting across in a clear way, but not just a clear way, but a way that like resonates with people.
Okay.
And so in order to do that, I feel like it has to resonate with myself first.
Right.
Not just on an intellectual level, but, feeling what I'm saying, like when I'm making a video blog or an Instagram post or a podcast or whatever it may be, to be in that state of resonance, which I know you talk about a lot, will be magnetic and will allow people to resonate with it. So I feel like, my messaging and the way that I'm delivering my messaging could definitely use some work, as well as my visibility. I kind of feel kind of invisible right now. When I post on social media, sometimes I feel like the responsiveness is underwhelming.
Sure.
And this is challenging. And I was just at a seminar workshop type thing a couple weeks ago where I brought up this concern. I said, the response is just not what I want it to be. And there was someone at the workshop that said, well, you're an artist, so what's your main concern? Is it the art? Is it the craft or the response? And I didn't like that question at all because, I feel like both are important as an artist. And the response, and maybe I failed to communicate this at the workshop, is directly tied into my performance in my business, and is directly tied to client acquisition. Right. So, like for example, the one client that I have for life coaching discovered me via, I think it was Instagram. So I was on my Instagram game, and that's kind of how I got my one life coaching client. So I'm aware of the power of social media, so it can be frustrating when I show up on that platform or any social media platform and kind of fail to resonate, because I realized that, hey, this is how I want to make my bread and butter. And if it's not resonating, then shit, it's not working.
Right. Okay. So you've got this vision of really getting more of these holistic kind of coaching clients, and it's just not panning out right now. You're not getting the interest. You're not feeling like you're able to really click with the people that you're trying to reach. And so we can definitely get into that, because my impression is that a decent amount of that is like a lack of understanding that game a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so that's just a matter of learning and implementing. And we can get into some of that. I'm not an expert on that stuff, but I know at least some of it. But what do you think is like the internal thing that's holding you back? So if we're talking about, there's a practical level of just knowledge and application. Okay. That's going to be a piece of most people's solutions. And we can talk about specifically what that looks like, but like internally, where are you at in terms of like being able to, get enthusiasm, motivation, and confidence around all this?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So one thing I've noticed is I'm about to move to a new city. So I'm in a transition period. And I'm also engaging in your material with the PMO stuff, which has been really helpful. And I've been off P for almost 60 days. The MO is a little different because it's been difficult for me to move past like a 5 to 8 day streak. So I'm still kind of in that window there.
Okay.
But the overall thing that I'm realizing is that when I'm in a transitionary phase like this, I'm very vulnerable, and I feel, and I tend to get depressed. Actually, I feel like some mild level depression. Now, I used to have like more severe depression that would last for weeks, and, I would just not be productive at all during that time. And that doesn't really happen so much anymore. Now it's just more like a low level sort of apathy, or kind of like what's the use kind of overall mentality that kind of it can keep me from getting out of bed in the morning. It can keep me, actually the three things that go first when that kicks in are playing the piano, getting to my piano, which is really ironic because that's what I'm trying to show others how to do, exercise, and diet. Okay. Those are like the three things that go the first.
So that's pretty common, when someone, they have a period of setback, some stress, not feeling so good about themselves, that they stop doing the most important things for themselves. Because, my impression here is that a lot of this is tied to a status insecurity on your part, feeling like you're not performing well enough, right? You're like not succeeding, and there's probably some, vacuous energy in there. Some sort of like, I don't have the status, so I'm not good enough. And then as soon as you stop feeling good enough, you stop treating yourself properly, and then it kind of spirals from there. Does that sound accurate?
I'd say that's definitely accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So I think one of the big things we got to do here is just start by like acknowledging where you're at. Okay. And this is where everybody's got to start. When they're not where they want to be, they have to, the last thing they want to do is acknowledge where they're at, because they don't like where they're at. But like, you got to be here with yourself. It's like, let yourself be on your journey. Like if you look at most people's, most very successful people, they've had periods where things were terrible for them. How many stories about like that, big celebrity or breakthrough artist, whatever, who spent like all this time like sleeping on couches, getting rejected, experiencing failure, all that kind of stuff. Like that's par for the course. Like anyone doing anything risky, which is basically anyone doing anything interesting, it takes them a while of failure before they figure out how to make it work. The thing is, like, if success were easy, then everybody would already have it, and therefore it wouldn't mean anything anymore, right? Like people, like all the high probability of success options that are easy and reliable, like they're all so oversaturated that they then become unreliable. So it's like, you're right where you need to be. Okay. And you got to accept that. So are you willing to accept that and be present with yourself in this?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay, good. Because it's always going to feel like this a little bit, outside of the moments where you're getting a big breakthrough, you're always going to be thinking ahead about someplace you want to get to next. And it's easy to feel like you're not where you want to be yet and feel down on yourself. Like I'm like that right now. Like I have, on YouTube, I have almost 100,000 subscribers. Okay. Yeah. Like most people would look at that, like who are just starting, like, holy crap, I would kill for that. But me, I'm just sitting, like, there's a part of me that's just like bitching and complaining because like I didn't, like I'm not getting subscribers faster. I feel like I'm putting all this effort in. It's not coming out like, how I'd want it to be. So it's like, there's always going to be a temptation to fall into this mentality of like what you're not getting. So as long as you can acknowledge that, then you can start playing the real game, which is just making the best of what you've got. Because it's like, if you're not maximizing the opportunity in front of you, you don't really have any grounds to complain. And if you are maximizing the opportunity in front of you, then it's just a matter a lot of times of patience or, adjustment, gathering enough feedback to then make a more intelligent move. So Are you willing to step into that mentality?
Yes, I am. I'm willing, man. I'm willing to I'm willing to be present with myself. I'm willing to step into a mentality where I must maximize what's in front of me.
Okay.
For sure.
Great. So now the question is, we got to get you a plan. And so maybe you have one already. Do you have a plan for how you're going to grow your business?
Yeah, I do. And that includes content creation, which would be a combination of like piano tutorials and music tutorials and video blogs, where I sort of talk about these more abstract life concepts. And I think that's one thing that I could improve is like, I'm very philosophical and I love to talk about like, these abstract sort of things, but oftentimes I feel like that can be a liability if people don't immediately know how to apply it. But again, I think that comes down to more of the communication and the resonance thing. But yeah, that's part of it, making these videos where I'm communicating the importance of building, optimizing your life so you can be more creative. And then putting those videos out there, pushing them out there with Instagram, Facebook ads. Actually, I've been getting into a lot as far as learning how to do that, putting them together. And I've been meeting with a guy who's been leading me through that process. And it is a process, because there's a lot that goes into it, as I'm sure you know. And fundamentally, though, Mark, I realize that how I show up as an artist and how I show up as a person is going to be my biggest asset for who I attract as clients.
Yes, sort of. So like,
Okay.
I think this might be the part where you're getting a little tripped up, is that you've got multiple things going on here. There's 3 hats that you have to wear, and you have to know how to wear all of them well. Okay. So like, well, I guess it's actually kind of, you're talking about 4 really. So you've got you as an artist, that's one thing. Okay. You as like a pianist or whatever. You as a piano teacher, that again is actually a separate thing. Okay. You can be a great pianist, but a terrible piano teacher, and vice versa. Right.
Right.
Then third, you got to be a business owner. Okay. And that includes, you got to know how to do the marketing. You got to know how to do the copy. You got to know how to do all this kind of, technical stuff. It's a separate skill set,
Yeah.
and then you've got coaching. And, as someone who's actually a professionally trained coach and, I've really like worked hard on my coaching, it's, you see a lot of everyone out there who says, oh, I'm a coach. How are you a coach? I've decided I am one. And it's like, okay, well, that's actually its own skill set with its own set of abilities and things like that. And so like when you look at these hats, rate yourself, scale of 1 to 10. Where do you think you fall in terms of those 4 categories?
Oh, okay. So this might be a challenge to my ego. So as an artist, I would say I have a lot of natural talent, and I also have things that I have done. Lately, I feel like I haven't been stepping into that with as fully as I could. So I'll give myself a 7.5 on that one.
Okay.
Because if Stephen Pressfield were here, he'd be like, "You're a 6, dude." But I'm going to be nice. 7.5.
Okay.
As far as pianist, again, like I said, when I get depressed, the first thing to go is the piano playing, but I'll give that an 8.5. Because I have gone through periods in my life where I've just been really serious about playing the piano and practicing.
Okay.
And as a coach, I'll probably give that the lowest score just because I'm the least experienced. So we'll say 7.
Okay. So you missed 2 categories. You separated artist from pianist. So what's the difference between being an artist and being a pianist?
Oh, okay. So I guess the pianist would be like the technical aspect of artistry, and artist being composer, pianist, coach too, because that's kind of an art form as well, and writer. All these sort of creative acts that fall into the general umbrella of being an artist or doing one's craft.
Okay, so I would argue that you're lumping that, you're not giving things a fair shake. Like, for example, like just because you say like your piano skill has nothing to do with your music production skills, right? Like someone who's like a sound engineer and a pianist have an entirely different skill set. Yeah, it's all technically art, but I think, we gotta, what I'm seeing here in you is that you've really kind of lumped a lot of things together in your head. And so it's going to be hard for us to find the weak points until we really start separating these threads out. And I think that a lot of people do this, and it's just natural to do because our brain, wants to simplify things. So let's try and separate this out a little bit. So, okay. Pianist.
Well, I guess the category that I forgot was piano teacher.
Right.
And so I'd say I'm a good piano teacher because I've been doing it now pretty consistently for the past 3 years. So I'll give myself an 8 on that one.
Okay, 8. And what did you say as a coach?
7.
7. Okay. So, all right. So we've got artist at 7.5, pianist at 8.5, teacher at 8, coach at 7. Now, how would you grade your results out of 10 right now in terms of your business success? Oh, wait, before we say that, where would you rate yourself as a business owner?
I was a business owner. Okay. Probably a 6, or maybe even a maybe even a 5.5. If I'm going to be brutally critical.
Okay. Okay. So 5.5. All right. So, I mean, like with all these numbers, you should be doing pretty good, I guess. But like in terms of your, I guess, so if your lowest one you gave you is your business. Okay. 5.5. Would you say that your business results right now are about a 5.5 or higher or lower?
Man, I would say the results are pretty low. And I think that has to do with some inconsistency on my part with the client outreach. So I recently had a really good business mentor who also encouraged me to do the piano teaching because he was a music teacher himself. And he's like, you strike me as a good teacher, which gave me, some courage and a little bit of validation, which was kind of what I needed at the time. He's like, you should pursue that, like for now, you should make that your focus. And so I did. He said, you should reach out to 10 people a day. And I have issues with that because I don't always have time to reach out to 10 people a day, and I don't always do it. And I feel like if I were to reach out to 10 people, the other thing is too, like I mentioned this in the Vanguard call. I feel like I've reached out to everyone in my immediate circle. And so sometimes I run out of people to reach out to. So it's like, okay, I want to reach out to 10 people a day. I go on my Facebook. I'm like, okay, that person I haven't talked to in 10, 15 years. That person, I don't even know who they are.
Right.
So
yeah, I don't think I don't think direct
one-on-one
outreach is probably the best strategy. But the big thing I want to come back to here is these numbers, because like you've rated yourself pretty high on these things, but your results are what? What would you say they're around? 2, 3, 4?
Something like that. Yeah. Lower than 5.
Lower than 5? Okay. So how are we getting low results with high performance?
Well, there's probably a discrepancy between the business number and the results. The business number may be a little high. There may just be certain things that I don't know how to do.
Right.
That I'm owning up to.
Yeah, and I think that might be what it is that like it's a matter of like kind of getting a sense for learning what you don't know, right? And this is a tricky thing to figure out, but it's in a lot of ways it's really essential for dealing with any complex scenario. Okay, like especially when it comes to business. Business is one of the most like complex art forms / sciences that humans have access to. I mean, it's probably it is the root of our money, right? It's like this.
Yeah.
We put an insane amount of effort into understanding the art and science of business, and just like music, there's principles and laws and things like that. But if you don't know what you don't know, then you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing that needs to come up here probably is the business aspect, because you can be mediocre at everything else, and if your business skills are good, then you're going to do fine. That's kind of the thing. Okay. It's like you look at, there's a lot of products out in the world. A lot of them are crappy, but a lot of the people who produce those crappy products still make a ton of money. Mm-hmm. And it's because they know how to play the business game well. And so this is the thing that I think artists sometimes get hung up on, myself 100% included in this. I view my content as my art, but a lot of times I put way more effort into that than I do in the business side, and then the art actually doesn't even get to shine properly because it's not displayed right. It doesn't get to reach as many people, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So,
well, that's been my frustration. Is like I know that I have a lot of value to offer, a ton of value to offer when it comes to my songs, my piano playing, my ability to teach, my ability to coach. It's just like this never-ending fountain of value, that is the wellspring of value that's within. And it's insanely maddening and frustrating because, it's not, I just know that it's not landing. I'm not getting the results that I could be getting. And part of that is, and I already know that I think I understand that there's a reason, part of that reason that I'm not getting the results is because there's certain things that I could be doing that I'm just not doing. Like, I'm not making fast progress with the Facebook ads. I'm not reaching out to 10 people a day. And I think a lot of that is tied in with this fact that I still, on some level, feel somewhat dysfunctional. I still feel on some level that I haven't worked through certain things that would allow me to reach my, as you call it, apex potential, and actually get up at 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning and work pretty consistently and steadily until I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night. And feel good about it, right? Not feel like when 4:30 p.m. rolls around, like, oh man, I just want to eat a cookie, or when 8 o'clock rolls around, it's time to watch a show. No, actually rejoice and have fun and fulfillment in that work.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I agree with you. There's probably a lot of room to grow there. In terms of your capacity to be focused and, have your mindset right on point and everything like that. But my impression from what you've described is that there's some places in this whole setup where you're not hitting your 80-20. You're not, you familiar with that concept of the 80-20 principle?
Somewhat.
Okay. So the way it works is like this. 80% of any benefit comes from only 20% of the effort. Okay. So it's like, if I was going to have you teach me piano and I was like, all right, screw it. I don't want to learn everything. I just want to learn the most important pieces that will get me up and playing. You would know what that is. You would be like, okay, it's a small little set of here, and this little bit is going to give you so much. It'll give you 80% of the piano. If you want that extra 20%, well, then that's going to be 80% more effort. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
So what I'm seeing here is that you've got a lot of stuff that's kind of together, going pretty well, but your results are still down here. And so if we want to get that 80% boost in your results, then we got to figure out what are the core pieces, the essential pieces that are missing, and bring them up. And so as we've kind of seen here, I think it is in the business aspect, and I can see maybe two different pieces to it. So this is a little bit more consulting than coaching, but if you're interested, I can kind of show you what I see. Does that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely.
So first thing is messaging. Okay, you're kind of you're trying to do a lot. You're trying to, on one hand, help people improve their piano playing, but then you're trying to help them as artists, but then you're also trying to help them as holistic coach. And so the messaging's all over the place. All right. And so if you really want to make money, you have to have a clear target audience with a clear problem. And what you can do is you can always, once you nail that niche, you can always expand. That's what I've done. I started off helping people quit porn, helping men specifically quit porn, and as a very niche. And then from there, I established myself from that, and then I can widen and I can do all kinds of other stuff as well.
Gotcha.
So if you were going to do this, then what's the core problem that you're going to be offering to solve people? Because that's what business is. It's just someone who has a problem, and they pay you to solve that problem.
That's a great question, man. And it ties into what my last mentor told me, which it was when he encouraged me to do the piano teaching and say, you're a pretty good piano teacher. So he encouraged me to really offer that specifically over the more holistic stuff. And I could do that. I could market myself as a piano teacher and put up a bunch of tutorials on how to apply pentatonic scales and, how to apply the altered scale and how to, practice Bach, which all could be good. But I have a couple issues with that, which is that there's hundreds of guys doing that right now. Many of them have multiple tens of thousands of subscribers. Not that it matters, not that it's a competition. It kind of is, but not that should stop me from going in that direction. But yeah, there's a lot of guys out there who are doing it. They're doing it way better than I'm doing it, and people already know who they are, and they already have like their way of doing it. And so I kind of want to offer something new to the table. And I know that I have this new thing because I've already spent a number of hours writing on it. I have a sort of a manifesto that I re-released called the Space Maker Handbook, which kind of like sums up the qualities of someone that I feel to be an effective and powerful artist. And I started an ebook, which is an actual practical guide to kind of like building your life around a focus. So I'm really into these more sort of, I don't want to say abstract, but sort of more holistic, the more holistic idea of having a focus. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be piano playing, could be, you could choose one thing. A person could choose one thing. And as long as he makes that one thing the Holy Grail, at least for a certain period of time, I believe that can be the vessel to a world of change.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of passionate about this idea and about communicating this idea much more so than, hey guys, welcome to, my piano studio. And today I'm going to show you how to apply the pentatonic scale.
Sure.
That's kind of vapid to me.
Okay. I totally get that. I've went through a similar thing where I was just like, all right, I don't want to just talk about porn anymore. And I'm still happy to do that kind of work because I think it's super important and it is still interesting. But yeah, I get that. You have a bigger vision. And so you'd have to basically either double down on that or figure out how to incorporate that as it's like which messaging do you want to pick up on? Okay, it's like you can either go down the messaging of, hey, I help piano players figure out how to make space to actually practice. That's a strong value proposition. Or you go down like, I help creatives create the space in their life to do their work. Two different things. I like the
second one. I like the second one. The second one makes me more excited. And when I think about it, I get like a spring in my step.
Sure.
And I feel radiant. And the first one kind of falls flat a little bit because of the restrictive nature of it. It's like, I've had adult piano students, and many of them, I was able to take them through some good progress. But what struck me was that for most of them, the problem was not their lack of motivation or understanding or anything technical like that. It was being able to fit it into their life, which is a much deeper issue, and I'm much more passionate about that issue.
Okay, so that's really good. And so what you want to then, if that's the route you want to go, then you have to make sure you tailor everything around that. You can't be then also putting up piano tutorials or like advertising piano lessons, because as soon as you start doing that, then you're mixing your messaging and people are like, well, what is this dude actually doing? Is he a piano teacher? Is he a coach? Like because a lot of times like your marketing, it's an additive effect. It builds up in the subconscious till eventually someone's like, I get it. Yep, he's the guy for that. I want him. But if you're constantly switching around, then they're not building that in their brain, and it's not like going to reach that critical point of conversion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. And so then,
go ahead.
Oh, did you have something? I wanted to say that brings up the concern of, because this stuff is just naturally a little more complicated, it can be more difficult to land. So if I decide to market around the idea of making space in my day to practice, and I say, hey guys, I'm doing some practicing, but that's not really what I want you to focus on here. It's not the practicing itself, but the fact that I made my space in my day to practice. That's kind of in itself, that's more of an abstract concept. So it's like, how can I make these more abstract concepts concrete and attractive? is kind of my question. And I don't expect this to be all resolved in one coaching session.
I don't know. I would argue that that's not super abstract. I think one of the biggest problems that creatives face is getting themselves to sit down and engage in their art. I think that's hands down. It's a massive project. I mean, like, look at the success of, as you already mentioned, Stephen Pressfield. That's all he does is say, do your damn art. He doesn't even say it with any like particular nuance. It's just like, do it. It's the resistance. And it's just like, go pro. And it's like, there are some good ideas in there, but like, people eat that shit up because they just want someone to tell them that. They want someone to help them with that.
Well, there's another piece here, which is that as important as that is, and like, this is why I think I'm having so much difficulty, is because like we just spent like 45 minutes talking about this, and now I'm like, you know, spinning on my heel again. Like yes, I do want to encourage people to focus on their art and make time for it. However, I also realize that there's another piece to it, which is the stuff that happens outside of the practice room, the stuff that happens outside of the work that one does on one's own as an artist, which is more integrative work, which would be, you know, everything from client outreach to building personal relationships, you know, things that require going out into the world and actually interacting with others.
You know, on your part or on the client's part?
Well, just as an element of being an artist, right? You have like sort of like I see it as you have the work that you do by yourself, at like when a musician practices, versus, you know, once you practice and you want to play with people, right? So you have to go seek out people, or maybe you want to record an album, so you have to seek out an engineer, or maybe you're just lonely and you want friends to hang out with, and that's going to help you as an artist because you're going to have that richness in your life of that social element. So for me, this was a big piece because
No, I get that. So why is that a sticking point? Why is why you're bringing this, like the reality of other stuff that people have to handle, up as like a sticking point for you to make progress?
Mm-hmm. Well, because I want to, it's like, I want to put both in the forefront. Like I want to help people carve out time to do the work by themselves, and also carve out the space and the energy to go and connect with others. It's like, that's part of like my,
okay. Yeah. And so that's a messaging
system
thing. It's like, how do you say it all, right? You want to say it all. You want to put it all on the table. You want to let people know about everything that's, you know, in store for them if they work for you. But the problem is people don't emotionally value all the parts of the process all at once. So for example, you know, like you've been through my content. It's about way more than just quitting porn, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I focus on if that's what I'm selling. You know, it's like for my Reforged Man course, I'm focusing around that, and I give them hints and visions of all the other pieces. But like at the end of the day, if someone's going to pay you money, they're going to pay you money to solve a problem for them. And that's where you've got to focus the effort up front in the conversation. That's the marketing aspect. That's not necessarily what the product has to be. It doesn't need to be so hyper focused. The product can, you know, do whatever you think is best for the customer. But the messaging's got to be focused. And so the thing that I would recommend for you, probably one of the best succinct places to start with this kind of stuff is there's a book called Story Brand, or Building a Story Brand. And I haven't actually read the book. I went through his courses, and it's really good. Why can I not remember his name? He's an actual author. Let's see.
Building. I feel like I've heard of it.
What's his name? Donald Miller. Jeez, yeah. So it's called Building a Story Brand. You can just get that. That'll help a lot. Okay. Another one that I would recommend that is also good, I would go through this one, is Book Yourself Solid.
Oh yeah, I have that.
Okay. Do you have the illustrated edition one?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a fantastic book. So between that and Story Brand, do the exercises and narrow down your message. And it's got to be around like a specific thing, and it can't be too broad. And I think if you do that, that's going to help a ton. And then you have everything, your Google ads, your Facebook posts, everything has got to be lined up with that. Okay. Next thing is you need to have some kind of, I think, a little bit better business model than just purely direct outreach. I think that's too much of a crapshoot. What you got to do is you got to get some qualified leads. And so you say you wrote an ebook, right? Do you have a mailing list or anything?
I do, but it's very small. It's like 170, 165 people right now.
Okay. Well, that's still more than enough to get started. But what you want to do is have some kind of lead magnet. So like maybe the ebook that you created, be like, hey, you can get this for free if you just, get on my mailing list. And once you do that,
that's all set up actually.
Okay. You have that.
Yeah, that's set up. I just need to make the Facebook campaign to attract more people to attract more opt-ins.
Well, you could, or I mean, like you don't need to. I mean, you've got 100 and however many you said. Are you direct following up with those people?
Yeah, that's kind of tricky. I think that's a part of my problem too, is because a lot of these people I met on cruise ships and they saw me as a performer, as an entertainer. Many of them are also, I've been out of touch with them for a long time. They're still on the mailing list though, so that's got to count for something.
Well, not if you don't mail them.
Well, I do. Sometimes I do, and I don't always get a response, which can be frustrating. That's like I'll email them and say, hey, like I've done this where I'll email someone on my mailing list and I'll say, hey, hope you're well. I'd like to see if there's any way I could be of support to you, please let me know. And then I won't hear back. Okay.
That's a bad email. So like this is where we need a little bit more of the copywriting skill. So what you're doing is you have to, I'm trying to think, I don't know any good ones that do, I don't know if he covers it in there, but actually, hold on here. Dan Kennedy. All right, so there's a couple ways we could do this. One is you go, Dan, if you start reading Dan Kennedy's book. So Dan Kennedy sales letter.
I've heard of him.
So
he's
the
like
ultimate
a high-powered dude, right?
Oh yeah, he's like the master of like marketing. So like Dan Kennedy's ultimate sales letter. Okay, like do that. Understand how that works, and like every email to your list mostly should follow a sales format. You don't need to necessarily be asking them to buy, but if you're trying to get them to do something, then you want to be applying this because you have to activate the parts of their brain that would align with your business interests. You have to make them feel the problem that you're trying to then solve. It's like you make, so it's like, for example, if I wanted someone to sign up for a porn course, I wouldn't just be like, hey, I've got a porn course, check it out if I can help you out. It's like, no one's going to click on that. What I would say is I would tell a story about, someone who's struggling with their porn addiction, how much, it sucked and how like bad off they were, and like give them relatable things, and then be like, hey, but then I use this, and this with them, turned it around. They're totally clean now. They're doing awesome. And it's like all of a sudden they can see themselves in that. They're like, man, I got a porn problem. Oh, it does suck. And I would like things to feel better. You know what? Maybe I'll check this thing out. So this is the part of the business stuff that I think will really level you up.
I think this is great because I can use pretty much my whole story. Like for years I was practicing, I was a hard worker, I was very talented, and yet I was also I wasn't experiencing the progress in music, first of all, that I would expect after being such a hard practicer, and or what I thought was a hard practicer. And also I totally felt alienated in social circles, and I didn't really have a good social life at the same time, which is like a double whammy, right? And I feel like there's probably a lot of artists out there that are going through that.
Oh yeah, big time. So I mean, like, you just got to, I think, put that message out there in a way that inspires people to connect with it. And then I think maybe from there, you just got to figure out, okay, so if you can get people interested, like what's the offer, right? Like, there's a bunch of different things you could do. Obviously, one-on-one coaching could be really powerful. But beyond that, like you could even do like art sessions, like run them free, use them as a form of getting people working with you. Be like, hey, I'm running practice sessions from this time to this time where we all get on Zoom together and we practice our art. Maybe you like run a little coaching thing in the beginning. And then like I've heard people doing stuff like that. I actually have, one of the guys who works for me, he'll do that with like they have these big rooms where people just agree to do work together and they all just go on mute and there's like a little coaching prompt at the beginning and they go from there. But like you could,
That's cool.
Focus it around your niche, and maybe you charge for it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you start it free. And then maybe those people you try at the end, you try and upsell and be like, hey, I got a few coaching spots available. If you're looking to take this to the next level, I'm here for you. That kind of thing. Like, and then if you really want to like go further with it, there's a guy named Ben Settle who's really good, and he can help you with your marketing skills. If you go to emailplayers.com, you could just sign up for 1 month. It's 1 month would be it's $99 a month. And so I've been doing it for a while and there's some really, really good stuff with it. But the first month you get a special book with it. And that alone could help you out a ton. And it's specifically for email, and email would be great for you to do it. But like you could also apply the same principles to Instagram.
Cool.
And so if you start doing that, that's going to like between that, the story brand and the Dan Kennedy thing, like you're going to have the basics business stuff you need. And if you can go from there, then I think you're going to be fine as long as you're willing to focus on continuing to improve your business aspects. Because I think you're probably good enough on the other parts. I don't know how good you are coaching. You said you haven't really had many coaching clients, right?
Yeah, I have a great deal of empathy and passion, but I'm not certified or anything. And like I said, I have one client. It seems to be going very well with him. But there's also that other component of piano teaching too.
Right.
So it's not like we're just doing the coaching.
So if I were you, I would start getting reps, start getting actual people that you're working with. And so maybe you start with a low rate. Coaching can get pretty expensive once you start establishing yourself and whatnot. But like just starting out, getting people to pay something, just whatever you think is you could, and continuously progress from there. Just start building your chops. And if you can develop some, at least a framework, like I don't know what coaching books and stuff are out there right now, but if you can at least, make sure that you're developing that skill, or maybe even just developing it as you get stuck, if you feel like you're getting stuck with clients and whatnot, but maybe you're doing fine with it. So, I think that if you can bring all those pieces up, particularly the business piece, and then figure out exactly what it would look like for you to be thriving as a coach in that regard, then I think you should be seeing some significantly better results. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot of good pieces there. And I think, we have a few minutes. I did want to touch on a couple of things before we wrap up. And by the way, thanks. This has been a great call.
Of course.
I wanted to first off just mention, kind of piggyback on that it's all really gonna not all boil down to, but a big piece of this is going to be my communication and my ability to tell a good story. And so a lot of times I feel like when I get in front of the camera and I'm like telling the story, that even just watching back, and I'm also hyper self-critical, which probably doesn't help, but like watching back at myself, like, it's like, am I communicating this the best way that I could? And I know a lot of that is like, again, reps, because, putting that camera in front of you is like way different. The experience of it is way different than you think it's going to be. Especially, I have this complicated, not complicated, but multidimensional story that I want to tell, and I want to make sure to convey it in a clear way that resonates with people. So that's going to require me to work on my communication, And on that note, I wanted to ask you personally, like, you're very good at this because you've recorded a number of long video blogs, like up to an hour sometimes, where you're just talking, and there's minimal editing.
Yeah.
And I want to know, how did you get to that point? What are some things that you use to do that and have used? Do you use prompts? Do you have a laptop in front of you where you kind of glance over at notes? Do you spend hours rehearsing it, almost like you're public speaking before? Yeah.
So a lot of it just has to do with you knowing the stuff inside out. That's really the heart of it. And so a lot of my stuff, it's that's my work, is I sit and I think and I write and I outline and I think and I edit and I, throw stuff away and I try new stuff. And it's like, so that's just what I burned into my brain. The stuff I talk about on my channel is stuff I've been thinking about a lot of times for years. And so if I want to, for example, do a pretty smooth take of a video, what I will do is I will get the outline right where I want it. And if I really want to do it, then I'll actually write it, like full out write it. Like, that's what I've been doing. That's what I was doing with my emails for a while. So for example, like a lot of the dailies that I started at the beginning of the year, I would outline them first, then I would write them, and I'd have like a draft that was too long. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, or like whenever I was getting ready to film, I would then edit it all down, make it much more concise. But in the process of doing that, I basically loaded it all into my brain. And then once I have it all in my brain, then, I can just basically talk then. I can just like tell the story. Okay. I can go at it. And then for longer, the more complex pieces, those are ones where I usually have an outline in front of me as well. But like,
so you have like a laptop, and then maybe you're just glancing over at it, and maybe you set up like a slideshow. I noticed you do that in your Reforged Man course, and I thought I had the idea to do that too, because like I want to make this video, and I've been working on this video of explaining to people how and why I'm changing my focus from piano instruction to this other thing, and I had the idea to include the notes, include the outline actually in the video, but then I was like, I don't know if people are going to want to read that, but it definitely helps me to have it in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like whatever, I would recommend as much as possible to learn how to do things conversationally, like learn how to just talk. There are some people who don't take that, they very much want to read it word for word, take for take. And back, I've definitely done that too, where I would like redo segments and stuff like that. And most particularly the place where I will redo takes is intros, because intros are the most important. So, if you want to, because you got to hook them in quick, and, kind of like the wording tends to need to be a little bit tighter. At least that's what I've found. But that's it's something that's going to come with reps. And so if you're adopting something like this, where you're doing a high frequency of content, which is what I think you should be doing, at least until you really basically get things nailed down enough to where you can automate it all. You use this as a place to really flesh things out, to really and internalize what you're speaking about. And so, you just peel off a piece, turn it into a bit of content, and go from there. Just make sure that you got a call to action in each one. So it's like you want to make sure it's a win-win. Everything you want to do in the business realm, you want it to be as much of a win-win as possible. You never want to make it, I win, my customer loses, where you're trying to like take advantage of them. You also don't want to make it where it's like, just you win, right? Where it like costs you a lot, but you get nothing in return, right? Because that's just, you're not going to make money doing that, and then you're not going to be able to actually provide any more value. So it's like if you put out something good for free, you at least give them the option to either give you money or take a step further in your sales pipeline. So it's either, like here's this free idea, check out my product, or here's this free idea, and then maybe join my mailing list and get more value, right? Both of those are valuable to you, and you always got to make sure you create a win-win. And if you do that, well then you're going to have customers, right? Like as long as both people are winning, you're going to have customers and you're going to be doing good for yourself. So that's the way you always want to be thinking about it. And as long as you can figure out how to set that up in a way that you're really thinking about them winning too, as well as you, then I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, I guess we're pretty much out of time here.
Yeah. So how you feeling on all this?
I could run for another hour, but I know that's it's just one session here. But I feel good. I think again, like it's going to come back to reps and dedication and being willing to be present with myself where I'm at. Yeah. And I think one thing that's been frustrating for me is like knowing that I have this potential. It's like this ball of sort of like unchanneled potential that I feel like is not reaching the world the way that I want it to. And so I think like a big piece of this is just going to be like sitting down and spending a lot of hours just like sifting through that ball and just being like, okay, what's this piece here? Okay, put that aside, maybe like focus on that. This piece here, put that aside, focus on that, refine that, and then be able to communicate that concisely so that it's not all swimming around in my head, swimming around in my chest.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a little work. You're gonna figure it out though. And so like if I was gonna recommend some follow-up for you is on the Vanguard call this week, check in and let me know what your plan of action is. Because I've given you a bunch of material here to like look at and whatnot. And so you're not going to be able to implement all of it at once. But you need to have some kind of clarity about exactly what you're going to be trying to implement and do and have a roadmap for yourself. And so that'd be step number one, is figure out exactly what the plan is for this next period. And if you can really nail that down, then bring it to me in the call and, we'll go from there and we'll keep you moving forward. Because that's really what coaching is. Coaching is moving you from point A to point B. And we got to figure out what exactly point B is. I think we set a lot of, ideas in motion here, but we didn't really nail down exactly what point B looks like. It's like, it's this business plan with these steps involved doing this, right? That's what you want to get to. And so try and do that between now and the next Vanguard call or, next week or whatever it is you want to do.
Okay. I'll sit down and make a little outline of like what I can do in the next week.
Yeah.
In the upcoming week.
Yeah. That sounds great. That sounds great, man. So I think you've got, you're on a cool path here. I think what you're offering is neat. I think it's awesome. I love seeing guys pursue their passion around this kind of thing. And like, really, you want to try and find the art in the business because it is, and if you really like, you got to fall in love with it to some extent until you're able to find someone else to do it for you. Like that's the bottom line. Is like if you can't get into the business aspect, then you're going to be maybe a starving artist. And there's a lot of those out there because they don't want to sell out and they don't want to learn how to play the game. But like, all right, you can do that, or you could be successful.
Right. That's a big part of my what I want to incorporate into my messaging is that whole idea of the starving artist is part of this idea of the dysfunctional artist, which is what we don't need to be anymore.
Right.
And that's my main, if I were to sum it all up, that would probably be it. Like, you don't have to be a dysfunctional artist. You don't even have to be a functional artist. You can be a powerful artist.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting business name. The fat artist, opposed to the starving artist. That'd be,
it sounds kind of almost like a bad Chinese dim sum restaurant or something.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for the time and willingness to share and do this. So hopefully you got a lot out of it, and let everybody else out there know where they can find you.
Oh, sure. You can find me on the best way if you want to reach out is Pearson Keating. To tell them how to reach out to me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The best way to reach out to me is email at pearsonkeatingmusic@gmail.com or direct message me on Instagram at Pearson Keating or find me on Facebook, Pearson Keating Music, or my full name, Pearson Alexander Keating.
Okay, awesome. And what do you think of the Vanguard for anyone out there who's thinking about joining up?
Oh man, the Vanguard is a key part of my life at the moment, and it's a big source of support for me in multiple areas. And I'm finding that it's a monthly expense that is well worth it. Every penny. So thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Awesome. Thank you for the endorsement. I didn't pay him to say that, guys. I swear. No, good stuff, dude. Thanks for coming out here and keep rolling. All right. I'll see you sometime here in the Vanguard. Okay.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Peace.